here for a bit.
Saying, hey, look at these Jews. Look how they're not stopping, and they're not talking to condemn the killing of Palestinian children.
We have never said look at those Jews.
But what is the purpose of this?
Right.
Because in my view, the only thing that achieves is the perpetuation of polarization between Jewish people and Muslim people.
Right. So
it doesn't help with cohesion.
Right. So I get you. And I understand what you're saying. I totally understand your perspective. I think you're being reasonable in what you're saying. All I would add to what you're saying is this, right? I've already explained to you that when we went to Golders Green, we assumed we weren't having the conversations with pro-Zionists. And the question is, let me just make this very clear. I don't want to lie to you. I don't want to try and deceive anyone here. It is the case. We understand that many Zionists are Jews, but I think that link is consequential. It's not necessary. That's the first thing. As we said, like in Stamford Bridge, you have Jews who are not Zionists or who do not identify in that way. So we appreciate that point. The second thing is it's like this. For example, if I was a sociologist or a journalist or anything, right, and I wanted to have a conversation with an Islamist, okay, an Islamist, someone who endorses a political strand of Islam, I don't think it would be illegitimate for someone who's a sociologist or an investigative journalist or whatever to go to Muslim areas to find that. With the assumption, of course, one more thing, sorry, let me just add this. The assumption is that most Islamists are Muslim. If not, probably all of them are. Do you get the point?
Yes, but I would never go to a primarily Muslim place, and I've seen it happen before where there's been like a terrorist attack, and then people will ask Muslims to somehow justify, like, why did this happen? Why did your beliefs cause this? I think that's completely wrong.
I understand.
And I would never do
well,
that
it's not illegitimate.
It perpetuates a type of hate.
No, I get you.
A type of isolation.
Can I add something? It's not sociologically illegitimate. Now the point is this: is that if as a sociologist, a social scientist, an investigative journalist, I wanted to assess Jewish attitudes towards the state of Israel,
if you want to film them, and then put them on the YouTube, you should have seen some of the comments underneath your video.
Fine,
like
but
they're all evil, they're all devil.
Let's be fair, right? I'm saying I don't believe it's illegitimate to question or discuss with or interview anybody from any group, whether that's Muslim, whether that's Jewish, whether that's Caribbean or anything. I think that's a completely legitimate thing. I think what we have to focus on here, if you don't mind me just adding, is not just the fact that I interviewed them. But let's be honest, let's focus on the fact that what they said. Some of them saying that the children killed themselves, some of them saying it's that Afghanistan.
There were two people that made inappropriate
No,
comments.
but these are sentiments.
From the whole time that you were there.
Is it Becky?
Susie.
So, sorry, I apologise. Lots of people I've been discussing with today. Susie, listen. We have, you say a lot of reasonable things, and I agree with you so much. However, what I want to say to you is this. Part of the problem is that we have to understand that there is a problem in the first place.
There's definitely a problem.
And I'll tell you what problem it is, okay? If you don't mind, you can agree or disagree.
Okay.
But this problem is, it's not only in the state of Israel, but it's also in Jewish communities as well. That you do have racism, okay? Racism not just towards people of other faith groups or nationalities or ethnic backgrounds, but you have racism within Jews to themselves. For example, Ashkenazi Jews and Sephardic Jews. These things are well documented in Jewish newspapers like Haaretz. What I'm saying to you is this, sorry, I don't want to take too much of your time, but what I'm saying is this, Susie. What I'm saying is, if there are cultural issues that relate to our respective communities, it's not fair for us to try and brush those under the carpet. If I stood here in front of you here and said that there is not a radicalization problem in the Muslim community, there's not some number of people that decide they want to. If I said that, I wouldn't be helping public discourse. I wouldn't be helping my community and also the wider British community. I think that we do have to stand up and say, look, in the Jewish community, there are people who are pro-Israel.
In all communities.
And some who's anti.
In all communities, there are people.
Say that you took that opportunity away from the community by carrying it out in the way that you did.
Yeah, on Shabbat.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So where there would have been people that would have agreed with you, and those viewpoints should have been held to bridge that gap between the Muslim and Jewish community. You took that away.
Yeah.
Okay, well, can I add something
I feel
to
like that video really perpetuates
Right. Now,
it.
let me be honest with you, right?
Polarization.
I think that an honest
That
is
perpetuates the idea that
Could I just ask a question?
no, but let me just add one more thing before. Yeah, you can of course, but let me just. What I want to say is this: any real progress that we're going to make as communities together, the Jewish community and the Muslim community. And by the way, I don't think that they're equal in the sense that the Jewish community is an ethnic, religious grouping, whereas the Muslim community is a multicultural grouping. So it's not ethnic versus ethnic. But anyway, for the sake of argument, let's just use those terms. The Muslim community and the Jewish community. If we're going to make progress in these lands, which can hopefully permeate to other parts of the world, we do need to kind of get the elephant out of the room sometimes. And I believe that what my job is, as someone who represents the Muslim community, is not to present a false image of reality. This is my conclusion, okay? My conclusion is that just as there are different opinions on different matters in the Muslim community, there are different opinions and attitudes in the Jewish community, and some of them are sometimes theologically justified, sometimes they are politically justified, sometimes they are racially justified. And if we don't realize that sometimes you have Jewish people, like Haaretz, always the newspaper of the left in Israel, comments that there is racism in Israel.
We don't deny that there's
Right.
racism.
So let's
in
let's.
Israel. No
So
one
what
says
needs to
that
happen?
there's not. What I'm saying is that, look, I've been in a strange situation where I've actually lived in Ramallah and I've lived in Israel. I've actually lived in two different places.
Interesting.
The thing that I've known that really helps with kind of bringing people together in a situation is when you have open dialogue between the two. I don't think you can create open dialogue by doing something as provocative as going into a community that you know is predominantly Jewish on their day of rest, erecting the screen, comparing the killing of the Palestinians to the Holocaust, and expect people to like willingly and openly engage with that. It's a very provocative way to do it. There are better ways to actually like get people together and talk to each other. I don't think that is the right way.
Just on that point, I think this Israel-Palestine issue obviously has been going on for many years, yeah? And from my personal take, I'm not representing him or anybody else, representing myself, yeah? So it comes and goes, yeah? So every time the issue actually occurs in Palestine, everybody talks about it. And when it kind of simmers down in the media, then everybody just carries on and just moves on. So my only question is, basically from what I'm understanding from what you're saying is, you in many ways feel disempowered that he came into that particular area to do what he did, and he didn't give you the chance to speak up in the way you wanted to. Is that correct?
I think he just didn't portray things in the right. He didn't go about things the right way.
Okay, no problem. So then my only question is this then, is that, and there's nothing wrong in saying it, but I suppose the real question is this then, is that because, you know, the elephant is in the room, yeah, you know what, it's not like we don't know what's happening. It's been going on for a long time, whether you want to call it religious or political, there is a issue there, yeah. The question I would always ask is that, very simply put, from your perspective, it'll be interesting to see and know what is it that you have done as a community to engage the Muslim community on an issue like this over the last 20 years.
Well, I'm from a very unique position. I've worked in like on a...
No, not you specifically, but you understand my point.
Oh,
like,
we have lots of organisations like in Judaism that actually work towards trying to bring the two sides together.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is that what you'll find is, and feel free to look into this, yeah, is that other than people that have clear anti-Zionist views, yeah, and I'm not getting into the whole anti-Israel, anti-Zionism, just anti-Zionist view, then they will stand on this side of pro-Palestinian. That's not a problem because there's really nothing to, you know, make cohesion with, because you agree, isn't it? Once you agree, you agree. Those that disagree, yeah, which is, as you said, the wider community, whichever area it was, I don't know, I'm not from London, sorry, yeah. What have they done over the last 25 years to really step up, yeah, and engage the Muslim community? It'll be interesting to see, one, if they have done anything, and two, if they haven't, why?
But likewise, it works both ways.
No, I'm happy to mention from this side, but obviously because you came forward and you felt that it wasn't right, and you know what, to be honest, I may agree with you. I might say, Muhammed Hijab, you were wrong in the way you did it, but the question is now is that let's get past that point and let's talk about what is it that Jewish community have done in the last 25 years on this issue. to engage.
I mean, as Muhammad pointed out, the Jewish community is made up of a lot of different.
I'm good with that.
So lots of different communities have done different things depending on like where you are.
But have they really? This is the question. You probably don't know, but do go back, yeah, because for me, I understand there's a level of emotion there, and I appreciate that. And naturally, and I'm sure when the Muslims talk about the Palestine issue, there's a level of emotion. I just have a very little heart, so I'm emotionless most of the time. But one thing I would say though is that having that emotional conversation is not a problem. But once you get past that, let's start getting down to the actual real deal. What's actually happening? And I would encourage you to check, really and truly, because there's a lot of things that have happened between Jews and Muslim communities,
Yeah.
all the way to the parliament. There's always meetings, there's always sessions, all sorts, interfaith dialogue.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that. However, what has happened and what have the Jewish community ever done to engage the Muslim community on the issue of Israel and Palestine, even if they disagree with them? What have they done in a country like Britain, where we should have more dialogue, we can disagree, and if there's not been, and the only reason I can think of, if you do read history, any country that avoids dialogue usually is a dictatorship. Yeah? Now, and it's interesting, I'm not saying we're in a dictatorship, but if we maintain that mindset and not engage in that dialogue, why not? Because remember, dialogue always comes from a position of power. Person down here cannot go and have a discussion with the person up there. Yeah?
So, to be
It
fair
has
to
be done
Susie,
this way.
she has come
It's just the point.
She's come today and she started a dialogue, so I do commend you for that. Right?
This is the
But-
thing. Like I firmly believe that the only way that you get to a solution is to talk between like different groups
Yeah,
of people.
I agree.
But like at the end of the day, what is it I want to see? What is it that a lot of people want to see? A solution between the Israel and Palestine conflict. I don't think that going into Golders Green on Shabbat,
I understand.
and, like
Yeah,
counting
fine,
Jewish
fine.
people,
I
is
appreciate where you're
the
coming
solution to
from.
that, and that's my main
Look,
point here.
I get what
I'm
you're
a
saying.
solution-driven
Can I make
person,
another point then?
But
Yeah.
the issue
Yeah, go on.
of Palestine is also, it's not a primarily Jewish versus Muslim thing. It's a humanitarian issue. So why are we creating a further divide? Yes, obviously I understand that religion plays a big proportion of this, right? But if you look back in the history, it was a political matter.
Yes.
The way that it was created, the way that, after the Second World War, it was created.
I think you would agree with that as well.
Yeah,
It's
of
a
course,
political
of course.
issue
No, I
that
don't-
people are creating it to
Look,
become more
what was your name
religious. It's Ria.
Real. All right. So you make a good point. I agree with you that it's not intrinsically religious, it's theological, and I commend you for coming and starting a dialogue between Muslims and Jews, or Muslims and pro-Zionists, or however you define yourself. Here's what I would say though. Okay, I think the non-negotiables have to be put on the table. Like, if I'm negotiating with anyone, even if it's a family member, the first thing I speak to them about is terms. What are my non-negotiables? Okay, that's how I start. Okay, these are my red lines. I can't really go beyond that. And I'm sure you're the same. We all have boundaries that we put with our loved ones or people that we.
Relationship counselling.
Yes.
Yes, we've seen
Right,
that.
right. Having said that, right, these are the non-negotiables as it relates to us. If you want to start a productive conversation between Muslims and pro-Israelis, Zionists, or whatever, I think we do have to start with the big elephant in the room, which is, let's talk about the civilian death. Let's talk about the 266 people that have been killed.
Yeah, I mean,
On both sides, yeah, good.
But let's talk about a fact
It's
that
not
is.
competition.
No, of course. But let's talk about the fact that when Israel detonates a bomb in Gaza, the most densely populated place in the world, 2 million people, that there's a 75% or more chance that will land on a civilian, yet they continue doing it.
And I'm open to that dialogue. I'm just questioning the way that you approach that.
Now listen, for example, if I start speaking about an organization, say Takfiri organization or ISIS or Al-Qaeda or something like that, who make it clear that, all right, what we're doing is X, and their actions show that they actually target civilians, or their actions murder mostly civilians. If I start speaking like that, I don't think anyone would want to have a productive dialogue with me, because the truth of the matter is, they'll say, look, you're a radical, you're a terrorist, you don't actually have a place in society, this is hate speech. No, I do believe that, and in fact we have hate speech laws that prevent me from saying that anyway, right? So the point is that we think, and this is the first order of business, we think that there has been a misapplication as it relates to minority rights, and there has been preferential treatment given to one community over another. We're both minority groups. However, the truth of the matter is, when it comes to Hamas, it's a terrorist organization. Why? Because it's detonating missiles which are killing not even 10% amount of people that Israel is killing. So if by the same logic, why is Israel not a terrorist organization? I don't understand it. So the point is this: both Israel and Hamas are saying we're not trying to kill those people. but one is designated as a terrorist organization and the other is not. I am saying this is the elephant in the room. If someone comes to me and says, well, actually we disagree with the fact that 266 people have been killed, 66 of them have been children, okay, and we disagree with the policies and we condemn the policies of the Israelis in so much as...
Israeli government.
Yes, of course, Israeli government. When I say America, that's my assumption if I'm talking politically. I'm not talking about the population. Yeah, just to make that very clear, and thank you for making that clearer. The point is, if we started like that, I think there'll be much more fruitful conversation. The truth of the matter is, I have to be totally honest. If someone doesn't start like that with me, and someone says, you know what, I condone or I justify, I don't really want to have a conversation with those people anyway. And I have to be honest, because someone who says, well, actually Israel are justified in basically pressing buttons and detonating and killing children, I say, to be honest, there's not really a conversation I can have with you. It's as good as Anjem Chowdhury coming here and saying, well, these guys are justified, they're going onto that bus and blowing it up. Do you see the point? I cannot, at that point, we say, look, we cannot really have a negotiation, we can't talk, there's no bridges that we can build, and
So
to you,
then
you're...
what is the purpose if you're saying that you can't have a negotiation?
No, I'm telling you that, let's be very careful and be very clear. There are some members of the Jewish community who candidly condemn, okay, the stuff that's going on in Palestine, at least in saying that what happened there is unjust. What happened there is condemnable. What happened there with children crying, going to their parents, crying to their...
No one wants to see that.
No,
There's
not just
Zionists who would say that they enjoy watching that.
Not just no one wants to see that. The actions that the Israeli government have committed are actions of terror, actions that are unjustified, they are disproportionate. When someone comes to me with that kind of discourse, I can say, you know what, you're a reasonable person. And we can have a discussion. But
Only if they say what you want to hear.
No. These are non-negotiables. I'm sure you have your own. If I come here and start saying something to the effect of being anti-Semitic, if I started saying like Jewish people are below me or something like that, you might say, you know what, to be honest, your level of discourse is not that, it's not good enough for me to engage with. I don't want to have a conversation with you.
As in you want fruitful discourse?
Yeah, no, what I'm saying is I don't want to have any discourse for anybody who justifies or acts as an apologist for a terrorist state.
So how were you expecting fruitful discourse coming into Golders Green and then just like randomly trying to get people
I'm not
to
saying
talk to you?
I'm
Like, you had a
expecting
big,
fruitful discourse.
screen.
I'm not.
So what did you want?
No, what I wanted
That's
to do
that's what I want
is
to
no.
know.
I wanted to have. It's just like any sociological investigation. Going to Golders Green. Let me tell you something very carefully. Golders Green is not a no-go area in this country. Number one. Golders Green is just the same as Oxford Street or Marble Arch or Speaker's Corner. Jews do not own Golders Green.
I never said
Yeah, no. I think there's a feeling that you own the place. You don't own it. No.
Why not?
Why not? Why not? Why is it no-go area? With all due respect.
You wouldn't go on Jummah, for example.
Why not?
To ask
Go.
a Muslim about
No.
their
I disagree with that. I think it's fully legitimate. If you wanted to speak to a Muslim audience, no, you want to be exempt from social inquiry, and I'm saying no one is exempt from that.
I'm saying
Yes,
there
you
are
are.
better ways to go about.
It's basically this. You don't want to be
achieving a
exposed.
discourse.
Basically, there's a community of pro-Zionist people that don't want to be exposed for their vicious and racist views. And when we
That's
go,
your conclusion. From going in on Shabbat and having people not
it's not only my
speak
conclusion.
to you.
No, not based on that. Actually, the peace index. I've already. If you look at my refutation of Ben Shapiro, the first one I made, I give pure evidence from Israeli universities that show the level of racism in Israel. This is the elephant in your room. It's not even in our room. No one can claim that Islam is a racist religion. It's the most multicultural religion in the world. Here's the difference between Islam and Judaism.
You assume that I'm Jewish. I'm actually Muslim, so how are you
I don't know.
But how
I haven't spoken to you. I wasn't talking to you.
No, you've concluded.
Could I ask a question?
I don't know if
Sorry.
you're Muslim.
You're assuming that you're saying it's not, but you
I think-
assumed
yeah.
a lot.
Sorry.
No, I haven't assumed that you're Jewish.
Hijab, could I ask a
Sorry,
question?
Sorry,
you have.
Oh, no.
You have,
Okay,
like,
if you're Muslim, well done to you. Okay, no problem.
but
I'm saying the
it's
difference
a fair
between
dialogue.
Islam and Judaism is Judaism or Jewishness is an ethno-religious construction, whereas Islam is a religion.
Well, I'm a convert.
Okay, nevertheless, it's no problem. You can just make anything you want. You can say whatever you want. There's no way of
Technically, it's
verifying.
not.
Look, okay, no problem. The point of the matter is, it is Jewishness can be described as ethnic and it can be described as religion. People that call themselves Jewish do so on two different grounds, whereas Muslims They don't. When you're a Muslim, you're not saying you're an Arab. You're just saying that these are the theological beliefs that I have. That's the difference. Now, what I'm saying is this: that there are certain specific things which are problematic in our community. We admit that, and we have to be ready to deal with that. Radicalism, suicide bombing, all of that stuff. There are stuff that go on. We can't say it doesn't exist.
But would you not feel upset if like people came into a
That's
very
an emotive.
predominantly Muslim
Right. It doesn't matter if I feel
area?
upset or not. Because the truth of the matter is, it's completely legitimate if someone, if a sociological investigation
It's not
was.
sociological.
No, I'm just saying.
Then, like, you're using a platform
No,
to
so what?
represent
So what?
a disproportionate
Why is it
picture,
illegitimate?
because you're doing it on a day
very
specifically when
provocative.
people would not want to talk to you.
But what they
People
did
like
talk.
Susie, people
But they
like
did talk.
Susie's come up to you today to have a
Becky,
say.
is it
Right?
Becky?
No, it's Rhea.
Sorry, Rhea.
Yeah. So people like Susie will have something to say to you, but you've actually completely taken them off by the day in which you've done it. That was the whole point.
So
of
let me
us
ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on.
She said the opposite thing, though.
Ahmed, please. Let me just finish this.
You said the opposite thing, though.
Hold on. No, just hold on for a second. Hold on for a second. Here's what we say. Point number one, not every Jew is an Orthodox Jew.
Yes.
In fact, according to the Knesset, only 20% representation exists for the Shas, which are Orthodox Jews. In fact, the majority of polls show that the majority of Jewish...
That's ultra-Orthodox.
No.
Yeah,
The majority of Jewish people do not identify as Orthodox Jew. So what you've done is you're talking about assumptions. You've assumed that all Jews are Orthodox. No, you have Reform Jews, you have secular Jews, you have Jews from different backgrounds.
Many of which wouldn't
Now,
want to
point
engage on
one.
Shabbat.
Sorry. So keep mentioning Sabbath. It doesn't matter because.
But not everyone
But
practices
No,
this is
let me
my
finish,
point,
please.
and
Let me
this is
finish.
why it came
Let me
to
finish.
you.
assuming
Let
that
me-
people practice in the same
Let
way.
me
Why can't
finish.
people
Let
not?
me finish. It doesn't matter if I came on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday.
It does.
No, it does not. There's no legalities behind me not coming on Saturday. No law says I can't go on Saturday. I can go on whatever day I like and whatever place I
It's
like.
about your intention. at the
It
end
doesn't
of the
matter
day.
what my intention is. This is the truth. The truth is, you are just embarrassed. That's the truth. That the stuff that came out, came out. Let me ask you a question. Do you condemn the man who said that the children killed themselves? Okay, now do you condemn the Israeli government?
To a certain extent, yeah.
No, to an extent. What extent is that?
To the extent that they obviously have more power, so they need to be like.
See, now you're flowery with your words.
No. It's an interesting point. Can you just pick up on that?
Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
actually
yeah.
believe that there's a disproportionate?
Yeah, I believe that.
You do believe that? Because, like, for example, everybody talks about the Iron Dome.
Yeah.
Do you actually know the defense mechanism of Israel? Because we know
of course, I
Hamas
know about
are the
the
SA-5 missiles.
Good, so you
Why,
think
what, for Israel, what are the defense mechanisms? Quickly, three. They have three.
What, the Iron Dome?
Iron Dome, and then David Sling, and then Arrow 1, 2, and 3. Iron Dome, short-term missiles. David Sling, mid-term missiles. Arrow 1, 2, and 3. 2 in this atmosphere. Arrow 3 is out of atmosphere, where they can take out any long-range missiles.
Okay.
There's no discussion
I
about
said-
anything.
I didn't say that it's not.
No. What I'm saying, what, not balance of power. What I'm saying is, first of all, no, you know what you said. You said that he came and he's basically destroyed the ability for conversation. But yeah, because of him coming, you're here. It's the opposite. You came to converse with him because of what he did.
Okay, but on his platform, he's showcasing something that's not proportionate.
Yeah, but it's
to
not
the
accurate.
Right?
Okay.
And you agree with us
What's
that-
No.
Right, exactly. You agreed with us that earlier that wasn't the right way to carry out. If you're there for a dialogue...
Talk about the main
we
issue.
need to talk about people that have different opinions. Not
Yeah.
people that will come up to you and you're saying that, oh, they're not Orthodox Jews. So are you saying that everyone practices in the same way? Because I'm pretty sure they don't.
No, the dialogue's going sideways.
I don't think you understand where I'm coming from here.
Yeah.
On my channel, if you're talking about my YouTube channel, right? I have different discourses. I have a video of a ultra-Orthodox, Hasidic Orthodox Jew, because you've got Haredi, you've got different things. Being pro-Palestine, I put up a video talking about how Islam is inherently cannot be anti-Semitic because the Prophet married a Jewish woman and for other reasons that we believe in the Jewish prophets, and so therefore attacking them for their Jewishness is tantamount to blasphemy. So I have these things. I try and educate my community on not to be anti-Semitic. But what you need to do is you need to now take a stance like I have taken with my community, with yours. You need to now, what you've said, if you don't mind, hold on.
This is the thing.
So-
If you look onto your video, there's so many anti-Semitic comments.
Okay,
Like,
I'm not controlled with the comments.
Exactly. So you
No,
hold
no,
your
you
hands
can't-
up. You
no,
make
no,
a video that's
No,
very
are you
provocative, and you say,
labeling
actually,
what you said
I'm-
anti-Semitic?
It's fine. I can't control those
No,
comments.
you said
It's
comments.
not my
No,
responsibility.
my comments are not my, I can't, they're not my
It's what
comments.
people interpret from your video.
All right, no, please.
People
I don't,
interpret
that
that.
means nothing to me. All I say is this, I'm speaking now of somewhat, do you interpret what I'm saying is anti-Semitic?
No, I didn't say that.
Good,
but
good.
what, I'm trying to have a dialogue with you,
Right,
and
what
I
I'm
think you're
saying to you-
becoming very aggressive about
I'm not trying to be
approach.
aggressive, honestly, I really am not. What I'm trying to say to you, Susie, is this. What I'm trying to say to you is, what you've done there was a very gallant step and a brave step and a very commendable step that you've come to me today, all three of you, and I do welcome this kind of discourse, honestly. That you've come and done two things which I have to commend you for. Number one, that you've come and approached me, okay, which I appreciate and I welcome. And number two, that you've condemned the Israeli government for what they've done in terms of killing civilians. Now, I think that we should build from this in terms of relationship. And what we should say is this, that just as you have been able to condemn the Israeli government for what they've done in Gaza and in other places, in the West Bank and the settlements and all that, I'm not sure if you agree with that or disagree with it. Maybe I should ask you, in fact, what do you think of what's going on in Sheikh Jarrah?
I'm very against what's going on.
Okay, good. So we have a lot
It's
to
not about that.
Right.
My initial point was I came to you very upset that I saw a video on YouTube.
Fine. I
of
see
you
where you're
coming
coming
into
from. So okay,
Gordon
let's.
Street.
I don't want to make you upset,
Yeah.
Susie. I don't want to make you upset, Ria. What's your name? Khaya. I don't want to make any of you upset. Okay. So here's what we're gonna do. Okay. We are gonna make a video together right now. Okay. And it's gonna be the counterbalance for that video. And what I'm gonna say is this. I'm going to make it very, very clear to the Muslim audience, and not just to the Muslim audience, but to the international audience that I have, okay, that, number one, and tell me if you like this, if it's to your liking, if it's not to your liking, tell me what you think I should add, and then we can have a discussion. Number one, not all Jewish people are the same. Jewish people are not a monolithic entity, and in fact, I want to say something, that the Quran even mentions that. Just to let people know, and I'm giving theological justification here, the Quran says, من أهل الكتاب من إن تأمنه بدينار بقنطار يؤديه إليك. If you give, there's some people from the Jews and Christians who, if you give a hoard of treasure to them, he'll give it back to you. In other words, you can trust them. ومنهم من إن تأمنه بدينار لا يؤديه إليك. And some of them is that if you give them one coin, they'll never give it back to you. In other words, there are different types of Jews and Christians. They're not all the same. Some of them are very trustworthy. Some of them are very loyal. Some of them are very respectful. And the same message, the same message is given about Muslims. منهم مقتصد, منهم ظالم لنفسه, ومنهم سابق بالخيرات. Some of them are middle balance. Some of them are very good, and some of them are oppressive to themselves. The point is that from what I understand of the Quran, is that essentialism or a sweeping generalization of a community is something that the Quran warns against. And so I say to you today, and to your community, I put this as a message to the Muslim community, that do not, and I'm speaking to the cameras directly, and tell me if it's your liking, because you've come and done something which I think is very gallant and very brave and respectful. And in fact, so much, I think the Muslims should give you a round of applause for it.
I think so.
Yes, please. I think everyone should give them, because they've condemned the actions of Israel. They have spoken the truth. She doesn't like what's happened in Sheikh Jarrah. She said to me, look, but on the other hand, she has her own concerns. She said, when I came on Golders Green, I say, look, you're right. Maybe I was not, I'll be honest, I'll be totally honest, I didn't even know that it was a Sabbath. I forgot. I totally forgot. And that's my, no, honestly, we went to other places. I want to be honest with you. We didn't even, did you think about it? We didn't even remember, honestly. So here's what I'll do for you. And for the Jewish community at home, turn around so we can all be saying it together. No. Okay, you don't want to turn around, it's fine. So look, to the Orthodox Jews who have opinions like these, who are moderates, who are reasonable, and I apologize for coming on Sabbath day. I give you an apology from me to you. And this is an olive branch. Now, I don't want to create tension between our communities. And if it caused anybody who is reasonable, like these three young ladies here, to be upset, then we apologize for that. That's not the intention. Honestly, it was not. So is that your liking? Sure, yeah? Okay, no problem. So already we said, this is a good conversation now, right? We said, number one, we condemn the actions of any civilian that is being targeted, whether from either side. Yeah, we don't accept this. Targeting civilians, I'm totally against that, honestly. And anyone who does that, when you know that, like, honestly, I could not bring myself to fire a missile or detonate a bomb, knowing that there's such a high chance, in fact, a higher chance that a child will be killed. Me, I'm not doing no jihad by doing that, no, nothing. For me, that is just killing children. And we're not in the business of killing children, honestly, we're not in the business of that. There's no celebration in that. When I look at the Israeli toll of death, the civilians, even if it's one, the Quran says, فَكَأَنَّمَا قَتَلَ النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا. It's like he called all of humanity. This is not a win for us when we see a child or a grieving Jewish woman or being displaced or something like that. We don't like that. Honestly, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, just to let you know, he saw a woman on the battlefield killed, and he said, "Ma kana alayha an tuqtal." It wasn't for her to be killed. So what do you think the Prophet would say if he went to Tel Aviv or any other place and he saw women and children being killed? Do you think he said, "Good, Hamas, go"? I don't know. He would say, "Ma kana alayha an tuqtal." The same thing. It wasn't for her to be killed. It wasn't for her. She's not a combatant. We don't believe in. I'm very, very careful. I'm very honest, open. We do not believe in killing combatants. And we do not believe in that is a reason for celebration. Sorry, non-combatants, thank you. So here, the point is this, for everyone to know, if coming on Golders Green on a holy day, it ruffled anyone's feathers, we forgot about that holy day. Didn't know, forgot. I know about the Sabbath, but I didn't know, number one. Number two, we weren't looking necessarily for Orthodox Jews, but no problem. But just for the sake of...
If you remember I was speaking with one of them and I said, your Sabbath starts after sunset. He said, no, our Sabbath is now.
Yeah, it finishes on the Sabbath. That's fine. We say, look, we want to create a good environment for Muslims and Jews in this country, because the Quran is candid about this. It says, لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم أن تبروهم وتقسطوا إليهم. Chapter 60, verse 8. إن الله يحب المقسطين. That Allah does not forbid you for being just with those disbelievers, non-Muslims, who don't take you out of your homes, and they don't try and kill you or take you out of your homes, that you be just with them and you be good with them, because God loves the just ones. In other words, we are commanded that if there's someone that's not doing exactly what's happening in Scdawah, people being taken out of their homes or in other places, because the next verse is إِنَّمَا يَنْهَاكُمْ عَنِ الَّذِينَ. The next verse is saying actually God does forbid you to be good with those guys that are taken out of your homes, by the way. And that's why I said my non-negotiable is, because you said what you said, which is that you condemned Israel's actions, and you said, I say, look, you've fulfilled my criteria for good conversation, and we can.
This isn't but like, even if I said the worst thing that you didn't want to hear, I just feel like if you really want dialogue with someone, you have to start at the most ugliest point of it, and that's how you get people to understand each other.
I get it, but I'll be honest with you.
But if you're honest, though.
Can I be honest?
Like,
Let me tell you something.
If
someone come to me
and you really want peace,
look,
that's what you're doing.
I agree. But here's my point. If someone's kicking someone out of their home and killing them, I don't think they want peace. The point is that with those who don't want peace, we say to them very clearly, we can't have conversations with you.
But that's never going to achieve a solution.
No,
to the current
I know
situation.
that, but we are actually forbidden from having conversations and being nice to these people.
But don't you want a solution?
No, solution is only going to, with those people, we can't have solutions if they don't want peace. Do you know what the Quran actually states on this matter? وَإِن جَنَحُوا لِلسِّلْمِ فَاجْنَحْ لَهَا وَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. If they come with peace, then go to them with peace and rely upon God. If someone is, let me tell you something. If I'm walking in the street right now and someone tries to slap my face, I'm not going to say, let's have a conversation. I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to have that. I want to be open and honest. I'm saying that there are some non-negotiables, but you have not, they don't exist in this conversation. That's what I'm saying. With those particular people in the Jewish community like yourselves, moderates, who don't support the rogue state of Israel in their actions and bombardments of the Palestinian civilians, we say to you, look, we're willing to make any compromise that doesn't go against our religion with you, in order to increase and enhance community cohesion. Even if that means someone like myself, who has a relatively large following, saying, you know what, if it upset you that we came to Golders Green, then honestly, I'm sorry about that, and we didn't mean to upset you, and for the sake of community cohesion, we come forward and say, you know, if there's anything we can do to make up for that, we'll do it.
She made an interesting point though, and I think he gave the answer to it. So for example, which Muhammed Hijab said, in the Muslim community, if you have an extreme group of people who are being anti-Semitic, it's not really for us to say to the Jews, go and speak to them. It's easier for the Muslim community who are more moderate to go and speak to the extremes and say, listen, what you're doing theologically isn't correct. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm not yet. Maybe, but so likewise, as you said, those Jews that are on the extreme end, like you said, for him it's non-negotiable to negotiate with them. But it's for people like yourself to go into your own community and say to those extreme people who are on the extreme end that, look, you need to calm down a little bit. It's not for other community members to do it, it's for your community member. And the question is, are you doing that? Maybe you are.
Those people making comments under that video of Gold is Green.
Okay, that's a good point, you mentioned it. Let me say it to you right now. Listen, ladies and gentlemen. Anybody who makes a comment which is deemed as anti-Semitic, okay, by these intelligent young ladies, okay, who will email me and say this is the comments and whatever you find distasteful. I will take it down and I will block you from ever being able to make a comment on my channel again. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, very.
No, that should be
There we are. That's it.
Yeah, look.
No, that's not even
No,
here.
if it's anti-Semitic, he says.
No, 100%. You know Aaron, the two Aaron and his friend. Yeah, they were chased out the park. They told us about that. Do you think when I see that I'm going to be like, oh, that's because they've been chased out the park? Of course not. You know, people need to understand our default position is that we don't want to be gagged. We don't want to be told, oh, if you speak out against Israel, you're anti-Semitic. I'm not sorry, I don't buy that.
Not speaking out against Israel.
They spoke.
He's making a general point.
I'm saying what I've been told by radical Zionists, yeah? They're saying if you speak out against Israel, you're anti-Semitic. And I'm like, well, that's as good as a Muslim speaking, like ISIS saying, if you speak out against us, you're an Islamophobe. That's pathetic.
But that's what they were saying. The extremes of all groups.
Exactly.
You know what?
Well, are you satisfied with the way this conversation is? There anything else you want to put forward to us?
No, just that if you do really genuinely want a dialogue, like take my number, like I can introduce you to, Jewish people and do it in the proper way.
Fine, absolutely, yeah, no problem.
You know, one thing, could I throw in there for everybody? I think it's very important when you have any dialogue that people aren't misinformed. Yeah, so people aren't misinformed, and I always find naturally it's an emotive subject, so I'm not saying take emotions away, but people are misinformed on both ends, and I think when you come to a discussion table, you need to come with actual information, like something simple as, I asked you, how do Israel defend themselves? And everybody just says Iron Dome, and they don't know about the David Sling or the Arrow 1, 2, and 3. That's a big misinformation, because then the next question is, and it has to be asked, where did they fund that from? It's an interesting one.
That's what we need to sit and talk on the
table. Yeah, around the table, to bring in the information though.
Right. So I think that this has been productive. And what I think is that, the best conversations are those where we can be most frank to each other.
Yeah.
And I think we've both been frank. And look, we're not here to try and arrogate to the Jewish community, honestly. I genuinely believe, look, you're one of the only communities where we can eat your meat and where we can marry Jewish. Not that that's allowed. I don't know. No, I didn't.
Muhammed Hijab's getting excited now.
I didn't mean it. No, but there's a reason for that. The assumption of, and that's why I said the Prophet married a Jew, but he married a Jew who became Muslim, obviously, but she was ethnically Jew. We have prophets in our religion who are, we cannot be Muslim unless that we venerate them. Moses, David, obviously Solomon, and Jesus is Jesus is a Jew as well. But the point is, and many more. So the point of, I don't know about if he's Israeli. I don't know if he's Jewish. Anyway, the point is all in all now, I think it's been productive. If there's anything else, you can send emails or something like that. Anything that's on my YouTube page, you can find the email. And any comments that you don't like, anything like that. This has been very reasonable and very fruitful, so I thank you for coming over and saying what you've said. These are the kind of conversations that will, by the way, make transformative differences, I think, in the world. That people can see that we don't agree with everything. Maybe we definitely don't agree on everything, but there's a certain level of, okay, they're reasonable to this extent, I'm reasonable to this extent, of a flesh that joins, our cause. Building bridges. And I hope that people see this and shows people around the world that actually Jews and Muslims can have these conversations and can be friendly with one another.
History says so.
Okay, great.
Yeah? All right. Okay. I'll see you later. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.